I wanted to take it to the next level if we were going to make it look more like a race car. The gauge pods are actually styled after a Corvette, but it puts us out at around 1,000 horsepower when you're up on race gas.
What's up, guys? Today we got an F2000. This thing is rad. We got so much cool info on this thing. Check it out. Thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here today and check this thing out. So we appreciate these guys, and we're happy to be here today and to feature this thing. I remember seeing this thing, some like Plaster City footage.
Oh yeah.
And when I seen that, I think that was my first time seeing this track.
Oh, that's very cool.
And it was amazing. As you guys can tell, this truly is actually like a hot rod. This time we say it a lot, but this really is like one. Yet we choose to just drive like madmen.
Yeah. That was our goal. And it was like, because when you build a pre-runner, there's a lot of teams where the pre-runners are working. I mean, I grew up, basically had the fortunate ability to go out and actually practice with McMillan's, and they took me under their wing and actually showed me a lot about Baja. So I learned a lot from them. But when their trucks and a lot of teams like that are working, they're working like workhorses nonstop. But when we built this, we knew that we weren't going to be working it to that level. So it had to be just as much fun on the street as it had to be, as it was in the dirt and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was why, that was one of the reasons to put some of the effort into the motor and stuff like that, was to make it just as much fun to go down to Baja as it is to go get a hamburger.
Right. I mean, that's our story, man. That's all of ours. I would say, I'd say most of us at Terra Crew and in the pre-runner community, right, Evan?
This is the way.
This is the way.
A gentleman named Dan Ellis was actually the designer of the truck. Actually drew it, and he actually was a car designer for Mitsubishi and Ford. And so when we went to him, we said, hey, we want, at the time, the only thing you could get for the truck was AutoFab, was the glass at that time to be able to do it for this
right.
truck. And at the time, the 69 style with the external bump versus the 71s with the inside bump, the 69s, there wasn't a lot that actually looked really good. Scott McMillan had this amazing truck that was his pre-runner, and I think it was a 71, and I loved it. But when I got the 69, I was trying to figure out how do you make it look like a race car,
right.
Because the other stuff didn't. And when I love the AutoFab stuff, don't get me wrong, it's like
right,
classic,
right.
It's perfect. But I wanted to take it to the next level if we were going to make it look more like a race car. The original 69 is actually straight across. This actually has a crown to it, and so see, it actually has. Yeah. So but what we did is we actually took a mold of the original grill to get this shape, and then these are original grill inserts to get it the original look.
Okay.
But by doing this, it gave a little bit more of a modern. This was kind of like we set it up as what would Ford do if they were going to come back and build a 69 today, or what would we want them to do? Would be a better way to put it.
That's very Chip Foose-like.
Yeah.
So it's like what
is that?
It's very Chip Foose-like. It's very Foose. It's a very Foosey.
Foosian.
Yeah, very Foosian.
Fugazi, Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy.
What is that? What do you think?
You don't know who Chip Foose is?
No, help me, please.
What do you live under a rock?
Yeah, roasted, I feel right now in the comments, so whatever.
Chip Foose is a famous hot rod builder, car designer, worked for Boyd Coddington for many, many years, and then broke off to do his own thing. He's won countless awards for his SEMA builds.
Yeah, he beat us at Battle of the Builders in SEMA.
Oh, so you guys actually presented.
We were aware of it.
We were right up there.
Oh, that Chip Foose. See, I thought you meant the other one. My
okay.
bad. Sorry, guys.
What?
I was supposed to be a transportation designer.
What?
And design cars and wear a suit every day and do that. And so I went to art center, the same major as Chip Foose.
It's a very Chip Foose approach, is to take, okay, we have this, 69 F-100. Let's reconfigure it, rethink it to how we would. Right. Ford designers would design it back in the day. Let's take it up a notch without going too far.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
When we worked with Dan's an amazing car designer. I originally just wanted to go, I said I want a 69, and I originally didn't have the vision that he taught me is what happened. When I first did it, I was going the traditional way. I wanted to look like the other pre-runners, just give me bigger fenders on a 69 that didn't exist at the time. He molded the front end so it looked more modern.
Right.
And then the fenders, instead of actually just going like completely impregnated, what he did is he actually, by putting this edge right on here, this is more what a production truck looked like. And it's not what was on the original 69 on this style. And then by carrying it around, and I remember I used to get a bunch, like some people, one of the guys that actually helped build it, so Curtin Schutenhelm actually was one of the guys who originally helped design the chassis on the truck. he used to give me a hard time. They kind of looked like bushwhacker, pieces down here. He would be like, "Oh, you can't do that." But Dan was like, "No, this is what helps. Things like this help the production look of it."
Right.
Prototype Concepts is the one who actually did all of the glasswork on it, the carving, made it look like what it was.
Okay.
And all I can tell you, I know it's changed now with the CAD designs and all that kind of stuff, the way the new stuff is, the bodies are getting done. But when
Right.
this was done, this was clay, hand carved clay. So when the original drawing was done, I went to go watch it being clayed up, and it was amazing how bad it looked. So when you see those drawings in the magazines, like in Hot Rod Magazine or for the Corvette when it's coming out or something, and then the car comes to reality, and some of them don't look like it, it's freaking hard to make it go from the drawing to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so for the first one, we had to strip it all away. We spent like a month on it. It looked awful. And then they brought in a new sculptor, came in and did it, made it look like what it is. It's fiberglass on the front, original cab, and then fiberglass on the back. The goal was to keep the cab with steel doors because we want it to be street legal. We want to roll the windows up. It's got a pressurized cab. I learned that from Corky McMillan. So Corky McMillan's Bronco is a badass Bronco. And, and it actually had a pressurized cab, and it keeps the dust out. Now, people weren't doing it back then. I think he was the only one that had it.
So you guys, Corky McMillan is, as you guys probably know, Andy McMillan. Corky is his grandpa, and he's like the one who brought the Baja racing into his family, right?
Yes.
So Baja racing legend.
Here's my hero right here, Corky McMillan, 71 years old, still off-road racing and very, very fast, very tough competitor.
I guess it's always an advantage to be out in front pre-running, but I think out in front in a race, so when you haven't pre-run, I'm not sure that second or third isn't a better spot because it's a lot easier to follow a car than it is to lead one unless you're in familiar territory.
So by pressurized, you just mean fully sealed.
No, and actually, so this is the filter for it. So there's
Okay.
actually a pump that actually sucks the air in here, pressurizes the cab from the inside out. So it puts like a quarter pound, or I'm not even a quarter pound, hardly any pressure. But all trucks, I don't care how tight they are, when you go out in that dust in the sill,
Yeah, you
it
get
seeps
something.
in, it's across your dashboard, it's on your, you just all over you. So what this does is it actually, as you get the, the little holes in your cab, it takes filtered air and pushes out so the dust doesn't come in.
This is what's so wild about all of this, guys, is that all of that, we're not even into the suspension yet. We're not even into that yet. But we're talking about the body
if you wanna talk
and what these
detail.
dudes put it through, you know what I mean? And
Was it Dan Ellis that suggested silver?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
that was the other thing. So I was all set. I wanted black. I wanted a black pre-runner.
Okay.
Or red. That was my two choice of colors.
Okay.
He said, he said, you got to go silver. He goes, there's so many body lines on here. You go black, you lose them. And red just blows everything out. So the car was chosen as silver by Dan Ellis. He said the cars, so I wasn't the original, person. who
like
picked that.
the concept color
Yeah,
that you was
the
on.
guy
Yeah.
who drew it was. He said, no, you should make it silver. And so we ended up picking a silver off a
05 WRX.
yeah, Subaru. is
Yes.
what this is off of. And it has just enough dark color in it and enough,
Okay.
shines in it and stuff.
It
Just
seems
looks
like a
exactly
classic,
classic 60s era airplane.
Yeah.
Or like the Airstreams.
Totally, dude.
Yeah, so when we get
totally.
into the
I
engine
see that.
compartment, you're going to dig on it because we had two. I'll give you a little teaser on two things that we did on here on design. But we actually picked the fuel injection. We designed it off a '69 turbo Indy car on the plenum chambers, and then he just mentioned airplanes. So when we put the coil pack up, we wanted it to look like a World War II fighter aircraft.
You know what? Let's just hop into it now. Let's be crazy, Evan.
Okay, so the basic, when I built this truck, I didn't have the money to have a race car. So this was my race car to feel like I was in a race car. So I didn't want to do the traditional where everything was leather covered and it feels like a finished production car. I wanted it to actually feel like a race car because this truck actually raced as a BFG truck, I believe, in the late 70s. It was a Class 8 truck in the late 70s when I bought it, and so I liked the feel. I drove it around. It was my daily driver. I bought the truck originally for $2,000 in quarters. I walked up with 2 bags of quarters and dollar bills. That's all I had. I bought the truck. It was a BFG race truck. It had window nets, no door handles, no cab except one, gauge pod. So when we decided to actually turn it into the truck it is now, I didn't want to lose that original feel, that it felt like you were driving a race car. So the dashboard is intended to feel like a race car. It's actually intended to be a little rough. Gauge pods are actually styled after a Corvette, an early 60s Corvette. And so we took our design cue from there. If you notice on the dash, there's no switches up in here. A lot of pre-runners, they have their, everything's all blown out on the dashboard.
Right.
I wanted the dashboard to just be gauges and simple and kind of old school race style. All our switches are located up top. Excuse the actual stickers. When we ran it in Nora, we had to throw those on, and we just haven't taken it off. But those were just so we could remember which switches.
Right.
We haven't updated. They should look nicer, but that's what's on there for now. But basically, the goal was to have all switches up top, gauges down below. It keeps the dashboard clean. Benny Gonzalez is who actually did the interior. Amazing interior work. If you look at the headliner, all formed around the roll cage.
Excellent, like a tweed.
And the goal on what's really fun about it is that when we designed the interior, so we had the 60s look on the dashboard, and I wanted to stay with the old school, at the time, I mean, these were still what people were using gauges wise, but we wanted to keep, they were transitioning to digital. We wanted to stay with the analog and keep it this look. So the style on the door panel, the door handles are off of a Mustang. We actually reversed original door handle off a Mustang and then blended it into here. And then if you notice, the curves on the door panels all match the dashboard 60s kind of Corvette look. And even where the little pockets are inside there, we use the Mastercraft material off the tool bags.
Oh yeah, you got a zip.
Yep.
Wow.
But basically, and even the stereo, the only thing we kept up here, obviously we needed a race radio.
Right.
But the stereo's all, at the time it was kind of cool, no one had ever done it before, but it's just an amplifier with an iPod, so we kept the stereo off the dash.
Okay, cool.
But that was the goal, was to keep it uncluttered. We had one of the first pre-runners with a rear view, digital camera in the rear view mirror. No one had done that yet. Now it's commonplace. And then on the dashboard, what we did is we have, it's now fuel injection. This was originally set up so you could adjust the timing and then you could adjust the boost. It's a twin turbo 460.
Wow.
So you could go from pump gas to race gas. How
cool is that? Just a
from
simple little dial.
Yep.
That's all you need. And then this is your boost gauge up here.
Correct. Yeah. So what we did on this is that when we did go to fuel injection, so we have currently right now it has an AEM fuel injection in it. And so we did go ahead and put one gauge up here for the boost gauge, keep it digital, but that has all the modern data that you would want to get out of there.
You got some nice speaker pockets in here, your boxes, your battery cutoff.
Yep.
Safecraft.
And that intercom system down there.
Okay, here, yeah, old school intercom system. There's your shifter here down at the bottom. We got sweet. So are these original dash?
Yeah, we tried to pull some of the original like the lights. Actually, we got a bulb out right here, but we actually tried to pull some of the original, kind of the way it would have been at the time.
Excellent.
We also have an interesting. So and then at the time on the side over here, I'll show you later. But what we do is we have. So the truck was designed so when you're out, chasing or something like that, the radio's running or the stereo's running. To hear the music, you gotta have your doors open. Then the race car goes by and fills your cab full of dust. So this has a system out here, so all the speakers are located. So stereo is located in the cage, and as well as the radio. So you can shut the cab up, turn the stereo on, sit outside and listen to the stereo.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Jack was telling us when you guys, when they pulled up to the starting line at Nora, right? You guys were playing like, what was it like?
What were we playing?
Mariachi
we were playing mariachi music?
I guess some mariachi or maybe some White Snake or something.
Oh yeah, definitely White Snake. I think we had after we'd broken the first day, Here I Go Again was definitely on the playlist.
Awesome. You just little touches like this, these pads.
That was for your helmet, so or your head. So basically in this scenario, they were little details. So we knew, when you're running around these, I mean, at the time when we built this, no one would wear helmets in their pre-runners.
Right.
And so this is just a pad, so you smack your head because you're going to hit.
Right.
And then obviously now it's it's so imperative right now. Everyone's cars are going so fast that even when you're out there playing, it's so smart to be wearing a helmet because you think you're just cruising along, but man, something fails on your truck, you don't even know it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Ready?
So that comes off nice one piece. Excellent. Holy majolies. G-Zola.
Hot damn!
So when the truck was originally designed, at the time, motors basically in the early 2000s, a lot of the pre-runners, if you wanted a fast motor, it was a high compression, and it took a lot of work to get to 600, 700, 800 horsepower. So the goal here was to start with a 460 block, have it be a super sturdy baseline that's got as far as the motor goes. Go with big block instead of trying to run up high revs, and then twin turbo it. And at the time, everyone's like, "Wait a minute, you can't put turbos in the dirt." Like everyone was like against it, kind of dissing on me for doing it.
Right.
And they'd always say, "Wait a minute, turbos don't like dirt," and I would explain to them, "Your engine doesn't like dirt.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Dirt is not good for a piston just as much as it's not good for a turbine wheel. So as long as you filter it, you're fine." The turbos gave us something amazing on the truck. Now, you're seeing it here fuel injected. My first plan originally, when I had it, the original pictures of it you'll see, is with a pressurized twin turbo carburetor. And the goal was that if something failed down in Mexico, I literally could unbolt the box and drive home with just the carburetor, and I could fix it down in Mexico at any time.
Right.
With the twin turbo motor, is it allowed me to run PMAX down to Mexico, and I just back the boost off in the cab, and I can run at 5 pounds boost, 650, 700 horsepower, no problem. And then when we get race gas, we turn the boost up 1,000 horsepower. So it had the best of both worlds without having to have fuel brought down with you at the time. And that was the basis behind it. So we ended up going twin turbo. We set the turbos up. Now they're Turbonetics turbochargers. The turbos on this truck, which we're going to be unveiling here shortly, a new motor, but the ones that are on here are relatively small. And the goal was we didn't want any turbo lag.
Right.
So this truck right here, you can drive out the driveway and do maybe 15 miles an hour and you're already at 1 pound boost. Yeah. So it comes on boost instantly. When we first set it up, we ended up with 2 wastegates on it. Now this is a wastegate here, and then this is another wastegate down here. Now it has 4 wastegates on it. Originally, at about 5,000 RPM, the truck would exceed the wastegates, and then we'd start building boost above 5 pounds, which isn't good. So then we had to put 2, so it's 4 wastegates. These are the primaries right here.
Okay.
These bleed off right over here. This is the outlet discharge for the wastegate.
Gotcha.
And then about 5,000 RPM, the backup wastegates open up here. The exhaust just bleeds out right here, and that takes care of the above 5,000 RPM. One of the things that's unique about the motor, so when the original motor, which we have some pictures, yeah, which was a pressurized carburetor. So I got that idea from Gale Banks. Gale Banks had a twin turbo pressurized carburetor that I dreamed about in high school. I mean, I just loved it. I always wanted it. So when we built it, we actually built our own design of a Gale Banks style pressurized carburetor. So I was really sad to leave it, but I wanted to go fuel injection. The carbureted motor at the time, we had because we had to run it so rich to handle the boost variation from 5 pounds to 14 pounds,
Right.
so that you could change it on the fly, that we only had about 1 mile per gallon in the truck. So the range, it's only like about a 55 gallon cell, so we had like 110 mile range. So when we went to fuel injection, we got to about 2 miles per gallon, 2.5, so we all of a sudden can go 200 miles.
Right.
So that allows us to get to pit stops and stuff. But what we did on here, the criteria I did is when I left that Gale Banks style of blow-through carburetor, I've always loved, if you look at the late 60s, early 70s Indy cars, and they have the plenum chambers from the turbochargers. That was the goal here. Hogan's was really cool. They adapted our concept on the design and custom built this for us. And as you can see in the packaging of this, there's a lot to package in this engine compartment.
Yeah.
And so when we went fuel injected, all of a sudden we got coils, and like, where the heck are we going to put the coils?
Yeah.
So everyone was like, hide them or put them on the valve covers, and I didn't want to wreck the valve covers, and also we didn't have much more room. So that's where we came up with the idea of actually rack mounting the coils up top. And so not only is it easy to service, because it literally comes off like a rack,
Right.
it has that kind of cool look that kind of goes with the
Yeah,
70s
yeah.
turbo look. On pump gas, it's running about 650, 700 horsepower, and it's right around 5 pounds of boost. Right. So it cruises along. You can put mile after mile. It's just like drives like a tractor. Yeah. And then when the race gas is in it, this motor is good for about 12 pounds. Starting with the cast iron block, it's got aluminum heads, but just with the setup on here and the old school motor on it, it's in a 460 and stuff like that, it's happy under 14 pounds. We won't exceed that on this particular motor. But it puts us out at around 1,000 horsepower. 1,000 horsepower when you're up on race gas.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy! Any travel numbers on this thing?
It's 36 in the rear and 28 in the front. Again, all thought through. We wanted it to look like the nostalgic race trucks at the time. So the F2000 is set for a 2,000 horsepower. What?